Senator Melvin, who is the Senator of Legislative District 26 at the moment, and he's from the North Tucson area. And I just want to make one correction. When my boss said Tucsonian, it's Tucsonan. Just saying. Welcome. Adam will be our moderator.
Thank you very much. And just for everybody in the audience and for the candidates as well, the entire today's being video recorded. Playback will be available on both Maricopa.com and our website, trivalley.com, available up until and even through the election. If for whatever reason you wanted to watch it after the election. Don't know that does anybody good, but anyway, there it is. So we're going to start with questions for the District 11 Senate candidates. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond. If the other candidate is attacked directly, that candidate will then have a 30-second rebuttal. Senator Melvin, we'll start with you. You've supported legislation encouraging the federal government to look at Arizona as a possible location for storing nuclear waste. If such a facility was brought here, what would be a good location for it?
Well, the proper term is used nuclear fuel. And what we're proposing is to do what France has done for over 40 years, to recycle 96% of their used nuclear fuel into reusable fuel rods, leaving only 4% to be disposed of, unlike what is happening, what they proposed at Yucca Mountain, which was 100% to be buried in a mountain. What people don't talk about is that this would be a $20 billion investment in the state. The money has already been collected by the federal government. It's 1 mil per kilowatt hour has been collected over the last 30 years. 10 billion was spent in Yucca Mountain, and 20 billion is available for this facility. It would bring, another thing is, Arizona would charge $50,000 per ton times 2,000 tons per year, creating $100 million to go into the Arizona Education Fund, above and beyond what the state pays for education now. This facility would employ roughly 35,000 people and would be in position for 50 years. There are 4 locations possible: west of Picacho Peak, Kingman, Holbrook, and Safford are the 4 possible locations.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Holt, the same question to you with Senator Melvin's support of legislation for nuclear use, spent nuclear waste. If a facility is brought here, what would be a good location for it?
I think that there is no good location in Arizona. I'm completely opposed to bringing all of the nuclear waste in the United States here to the state of Arizona. Arizona, of all states, I think is where we need to focus on renewable energy and solar energy. One of the things that is the most troublesome to me about bringing all the nuclear waste here to Arizona is that I really don't think it is a good economic investment. Countries around the world now are not investing in nuclear power. Nuclear power has actually been a disappointment because it has not been as economically feasible as it was originally expected. I also do not support putting all of the nuclear waste in one place. And this is a point with which I disagree with the Obama administration, who is promoting this and moving this forward. So let's keep the nuclear waste where it's being generated, and let's spend some of that wonderful money that's been saved over all of this period of time on supporting renewable energy.
Second rebuttal, Senator Melvin.
This issue is a national security issue. My opponent is wrong in that countries around the world are abandoning nuclear power. China is building 30 reactors as I speak, and India is building 20. We haven't built one in this country in over 30 years or completed one. 2 are under construction. The Navy's been underway on nuclear power for over half a century without incident. We have to have this source of energy to remain a world power.
We're going to go to the second question. We're going to start with you, Ms. Holt.
Can I?
Sure.
Thank you. You know what I'm thinking of is I was thinking of Germany. Germany is in fact closing and shutting down all of its nuclear power. I'm also thinking of the company in France that Senator Melvin refers to, which you can read about at www.arriva.com. And when you go to their website, you will see that what they are so proud of and what they are talking about at Arriva is solar energy.
Let's move on to the second question. Ms. Holt, we'll start with you. In a profile piece done earlier this year on Arizona Public Media, Senator Melvin, you stated that the legislature has been protecting education over the past few years through budget cuts of about $9,000 per child. With school funding for Arizona still 48th in the nation, according to the latest Census Bureau figures, what more needs to be done to improve the state of education in Arizona?
Traditional public education, K through 12 in Arizona, has not been protected at over $9,000 per student per year. That number is on the Joint Legislative Budget Committee spreadsheet, but what it refers to is total funding, which includes local funding and federal funding, and the federal funding got quite a boost because that includes the Obama stimulus program. So when Senator Melvin says that we're spending $9,300 per student per year, he's including items that he cannot vote for. So if we're just talking about state funding, this is a state race, and what Senator Melvin, with all due respect, is capable of controlling, that number has dropped by 20%. So state funding for K through 12 education has been cut by 20%. And it's difficult to imagine improving a system of any sort of complexity and while cutting its budget by 1/5. So I think we need to start with funding. And funding is necessary, but funding is not sufficient as well.
Thank you, ma'am. Senator Melvin,
Yes. Yes. Well, I agree with Joe in that what we're talking about, the Joint Legislative Budget Committee and myself, is that we have protected per pupil funding in the public system K through 12 at over $9,000 per student, and that includes federal, state, and local revenue that's generated here in the state. We've never let it go below $9,000. And to do that, we mortgaged Capitol buildings in Phoenix, the Senate building, the House building, the Executive Tower, where the governor has her office. We've moved heaven and earth to protect education at that level. We've also done everything that we could to maximize parental school choice in Arizona. We have more charter schools per capita than any state in the union. We have open enrollment between district schools. We have tuition tax credits for those parents who want to send their children to parochial and private schools. Education is very important to us. I'm a teacher. When I'm not in the Senate, I teach. They say that K through 12 reform is the civil rights issue of this century. Half of the black children in America do not graduate from high school. We are committed to making sure that all of our children are educated properly through maximum parental school choice. Thanks.
May I read that?
Yes, Ms. Holt, 30 seconds.
Funding for traditional public education. Funding for traditional public education from the state of Arizona has been cut 20%. All right? When Senator Melvin says he supports education, I'm sure that he is being honest, but he is including alternative education in that. I am putting the highest priority on traditional public education. I think that's where we have to begin. Yeah.
Senator, your response?
Well, when the truth is told, if the Democratic Party in Arizona had its way, there would be no charter schools in this state, including the award-winning Basis School, which has been judged to be the #1 charter school in the nation, and it is expanding rapidly in Tucson and in the Phoenix area. There would be no open enrollment between district schools. There would be no tuition tax credit. They don't want maximum parental school choice. We want it. They don't. That's a fact. Thank you.
Let's move on to the next question, which does deal with education, so we'll continue to discuss this. Locally here, hundreds of Maricopa students are bused out of this district to schools up in the valley. Do you support taxpayer dollars going to such transportation of students? Senator Melvin, let's start with you.
Well, I believe the reason for that is that parents are looking at the performance of district schools in the area, and some of them are choosing to send their children to another district. That happens in the Tucson area. We have a failing school district in the Tucson Unified School District. The children are leaving there to go to Catalina Foothills, Flowing Wells, Amphi, and Marana. I assume perhaps some of that is taking place here, but again, to give the parents maximum school choice. Children should not be subjected to just the zip code where they happen to be born. The parents should have a chance to send them to the very best schools that they can send them to, and I assume that that's what is taking place here. And as more charters come up throughout the state, they will have that opportunity too. Perhaps more charters here, perhaps a basis school here in the town of Maricopa. So again, I would ask people, if you haven't seen the movie, check out Waiting for Superman. Waiting for Superman. It's a great movie, and it's all about parental school choice. Thanks.
Ms. Holt, the same question to you. With hundreds of Maricopa students being currently bused out of the district to schools up in the valley, do you support taxpayer dollars going to such transportation of students?
No, I do not. I have no problem with parents sending their children to whatever school that they choose. I have no problem with open enrollment. Open enrollment has been present in Arizona for quite some time. Whether taxpayer dollars should be used to support that choice, I think, is a different issue. And that's what the question is. And no, I don't support that. But then here we get into this problem of parental choice, right? So if the school is failing, or if you don't like this school, then send your child to some other school that's better. That assumes that you have transportation for that child. That assumes that you can drive that child to school every day and go back and pick that child up again. There are a number of assumptions going on here, all right? Charter schools are fine. I visited a fantastic charter school in Tucson. It's a charter school that actually supports the public school. It doesn't compete with it. It supports the public school because it takes students who are dropping out of high school. And it's a charter high school that will deal with those students and help them to graduate.
30 seconds. Okay.
I just want to say that one of the reasons we have such an excellent college and university system in the United States is competition. Frankly, competition is as American as apple pie, the flag, you name it. We have three excellent universities in this state. They compete with other universities throughout the country, and good old competition makes everybody better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's move on to a question dealing a little bit with immigration. And we'll start with you, Ms. Holt. What role should the state legislature play in helping secure Arizona's border with Mexico?
Well, I believe that immigration is strictly a federal issue. It's up to the federal government to control who comes in and out of this country. Unfortunately, the federal government has completely, absolutely, and totally failed to enact comprehensive immigration reform. And there have been good places to start with this type of legislation, and it only gets treated like a political football. While that's going on in Congress, border states like ours are bearing the brunt of uncontrolled border activity. The state of Arizona is responsible for the safety of its citizens. We are responsible for public safety. Anyone living on or near the border should feel completely at home on their own property and should feel safe on their own property. I'm a very strong supporter of public safety. But that is the limit of what Arizona should be doing. So instead of dealing with some of the issues of where our revenue stream is coming from and how much revenue do we have in this state so that we don't cut education by 20%. Incredibly important issues like that, we're spending time with an immigration politically motivated football.
Senator Melvin, the same question to you. What role should the state legislature play in helping secure Arizona's border with Mexico?
Well, the state has to step up to the plate and secure the border where the federal government has failed miserably. SB 1070 was a step in the right direction and has helped us in that area. The fact that the border is not secure is costing the citizens and taxpayers of Arizona approximately $2 billion a year in costs related to the fact that we have 10 to 15% of the people in our schools, our jails, and our hospitals are illegals. That's costing us, each and every one of us, so we have to do something about it. SB 1070 was a step in the right direction. Before that legislation, we had approximately 500,000 illegals in the state, and approximately 100,000 have left as we starting to tighten up here in Arizona. My running mate, Steve Smith, a resident of the town of Maricopa, who's running for the House with me, has a bill called BuildTheBorderFence.com. BuildTheBorderFence.com, where we're soliciting private funds to help us have measures on the border to stem this problem. And this has always been my first priority, only bested by jobs and job creation. Thanks.
Is there a rebuttal?
Yes, ma'am. 30 seconds.
I would like to address the $2 billion a year that illegal aliens, undocumented workers are costing the state of Arizona. Yes, you can find studies that will give you that number. And you can also find studies that will give you a different number, and that the net is actually on the other side, and that the net is actually positive. And then you can find rational people who will tell you that this is a very difficult number to come by, and that it's very, oh, shoot. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Senator Melvin, you were glad.
Well, we've had several Border Patrol agents killed on the border. We had a rancher killed. I see Senator Steve Smith in the back of the room there. We've talked to ranchers. You know, my father did not fight in the Pacific from the Philippines to Okinawa for me to be on this stage in the year 2012 and to have American citizens worried about their safety within the United States. We have to fix it, and together with Steve and others, we will fix it. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Senator, we're going to go back and start with you. We're going to change gears a little bit and talk about Proposition 204 with the permanent 1 cent sales tax extension. Do you favor this? And if you do, why?
The last thing Arizona needs is a tax increase during this recession. If this abomination, frankly, goes through, we will be the second state with the highest sales tax in the nation. We can't let it happen. It'll be a job killer. You know, 4 years ago, I arrived at the Senate. We had a budget of about 11.6. It's now 8.6. It's balanced now. We took $3 billion out of it. We went from the bottom 10 states to the top 10 in 3 critical areas. We are now the number one state for business startups. We're number 4 for job creation, where we used to be 48th. Driving up here from the south, looking to the east, you can't help but see Fab 42 over here. We have Intel making that multi-billion-dollar investment, probably employing many inhabitants and citizens here in the town of Maricopa. In addition, they have created or starting a $300 million research and development program. We need to keep this state as business-friendly as possible. Raising taxes is a job killer, and it's not going to help anybody. It's going to hurt everyone collectively. Thanks.
Ms. Holt, same question to you. Obviously, Senator Melvin feels strongly on this. Your thoughts on Prop 204 and whether you support it and why or why not?
Yeah, I do support Proposition 204. It's an extension of an existing sales tax, and it will go to education and it will go to roads. I always say that I am not happy that Prop 204 involves sales tax as a revenue. Sales tax is too high here in Arizona, and on the other side of things, there's too much of a dependency on sales tax in the Arizona revenue stream. Why is it being done with sales tax then? It is a desperate measure, and these are desperate times for public education. So it's a balance. It's a balance, right? We're going to go ahead and keep the sales tax as high as it is, but we're going to get money back into the schools. And getting money back into our traditional public school system and increasing the quality of education is going to do more to create jobs and support businesses than tax cuts do. State and local taxes are only a 1-3% of the cost of doing business. Cutting that amount does not create jobs. If it did, we would be awash in jobs now. Thank you.
I'm going to change gears again and ask about something that should be a little through the Affordable Care Act. With the Supreme Court upholding portions of the Affordable Care Act, what steps should the state legislature now take in response? Is the creation of an insurance exchange in the state now a must? Ms. Holt, let's start with you.
Yes. We have to, the creation of the health insurance exchange for Arizona is actually behind schedule. There is a deadline in mid-November for the blueprint for what Arizona wants to do. They need to send that blueprint to the federal government. If we do not establish our own health care exchange, which will basically work online. People who buy their own health insurance right now and they don't get it through an employer, they will be able to go online and compare all the available insurance products here in Arizona one-on-one with one another. This is going to dramatically change the way people get health insurance in this country. This is something that, once again, the state legislature is not spending time on. I know Governor Brewer has a grant, I think 2 grants, in fact, to begin moving forward on some of the IT structure that has to be built to support this really huge project. But we need to put the rules and regulations into place. The Affordable Care Act gives states the flexibility to do that. And so the state needs to take advantage of that. The Affordable Care Act is the law of the land. It is constitutional. We need to move forward into the future.
Senator Melvin, with the Supreme Court upholding portions of the ACA, what steps does the legislature now need to take in response, and is creating insurance exchange here in Arizona?
Thanks for asking the question. I believe it's the responsibility of the Arizona legislature to do everything in our power to stop Obamacare here and working with other like-minded states, starting with Texas, Florida, Virginia, and others. This is a tragedy, my fellow citizens. I stand before you as a cancer survivor. I thank the Lord that I received the required chemotherapy and other treatment prior to this. We have the finest medical system in the world, and this administration is trying to socialize it. They're going to create a board. It's really a death panel of approximately 15 people. None of them are medically related. And it's strictly the rationing of health care. The way I describe it is, if your age curve crosses the cost curve and you're outside it, you don't get it. They are literally taking $716 billion from Medicare for this train wreck. We have to stop it. When we take back the government from the White House down the evening of November the 6th, we are going to dismantle this thing straight down to its foundation and restore the best healthcare system in the world. Thank you.
30 seconds for rebuttal.
You know, one of the things that I don't understand, this is my first time to run for public office, and one of the things I don't understand is why healthcare would be partisan. And why it would be so important to dismantle this program, the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act is not perfect. Guess what? Most legislation is not perfect. Social Security started off very different than it is today.
There are 2 critical things that Obamacare does not have. It doesn't allow for the purchase of health care across state lines, good old American competition. And equally critically, there is no tort reform to keep the trial lawyers off the backs of our doctors. That defensive medicine is costing America over $800 billion a year. These are the things we need: tort reform and purchase of health care across state lines.
Thank you, sir. Senator Melvin, let's start with you with the next question that does have a tie-in to healthcare in Arizona. Should Planned Parenthood or other healthcare organizations that provide abortions be allowed to receive state funding, even if that funding is for non-abortion related?
Well, I'm proud to be a Republican, and I'm a Roman Catholic. And what I'm very proud of is the fact that both respect the dignity of life from conception to natural death. Since Roe v. Wade went into effect, 54 million innocents have lost their lives through abortion. I believe this is a states' rights issue. Planned Parenthood runs the biggest abortion operation in the state of Arizona. Any money that goes to them, no matter how they say it, it's segregated one way or another. It assists the abortion of innocents in the state, and I'm opposed to it. They shouldn't receive a penny as long as they stay in the abortion business. If they want to get out of it and just stay with mammograms and other medical procedures, that's great. But any organization associated with abortion, I believe, needs to be defunded. Every Christian, I can speak for Catholics, evangelicals, and Mormons in this state. We're opposed to abortion. We don't want any of our tax dollars going to it. It's an abomination, and it needs to be curtailed as much as possible, and we're not going to give them a penny. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Holt, the same question to you. Should Planned Parenthood or other health care organizations that provide abortions be allowed to receive state funding, even if that funding is segregated to non-abortion-related practices?
The answer is yes. You know what I want? I want a world where no one dies from a terminal disease. I want a world where nobody dies from a car accident. And I want a world with no abortions. And Planned Parenthood has done more to curtail the necessity of an abortion by curtailing unplanned pregnancies than any other organization. If you really want to get rid of abortions, you get rid of unwanted pregnancies, that's exactly what Planned Parenthood helps to do. It's been doing it for decades. It does a good job. And in this country, we don't decide bit by bit by bit where our tax money goes. I don't use that road over there. Why should my taxes pay for that road over there? I don't like that road. We don't do that here. So I support Planned Parenthood, and I support my right to control my body and my reproductive system.
Senator, for rebuttal, 30 seconds.
Yes. Well, I have a rude awakening for Ms. Holt. Unfortunately, terminal illness and car accidents are going to continue. Life is not fair. But one thing we can do is to follow the founders of our country who, in the Declaration of Independence, said life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We have to protect the most innocent among us, and that's the unborn children in the womb. Thank you.
Ms. Holt, would you like 30 seconds to respond?
I think that people who believe that abortion is murder, I respect their opinion. I respect their religious beliefs. Or whatever the foundation of that opinion is, they need to respect my right to control my body and make my own decisions.
Thank you. We're going to go to one last question, and then we'll close. The last thing I wanted to talk about is something that obviously is in a lot of people's minds these days, is jobs. I want to ask, and we'll start with Ms. Holt, what role specifically should the state government play in bringing jobs to Arizona, and what industry should be targeted for this particular district?
For this particular district, I think that we are ready for biotech, and we are ready for renewable energy. In Oro Valley, where I live, we already have a pretty darn good start in biotech, and this is something that it's not just because I'm a biochemist. it's really you know what, we're talking about the future. We're talking about innovative jobs. We're talking about good jobs that bring in people who are educated to do those jobs. We have a rail line that goes the distance of our strangely, oddly shaped district, and that is something that is going to be extremely useful and something that we need to take advantage of. So I'm looking at renewable energy, and I'm looking at biotech for the future of this district. Our district has one thing going for it. which is that I think we are the only legislative district in the state that bridges Tucson and Phoenix. We should take advantage of that. That's it.
Senator Melvin, same question, would you like to repeat it?
No. Jobs is job number one until we get all of our people back to work. All of the able-bodied men and women in the state who want to work and can work, we need jobs for them, and we're well underway. As I mentioned, we've gone from 48th in the nation to 4th in job creation. Some of the things that we're working on are a new Union Pacific rail facility at Picacho Peak that's going to transform the western part of Pinal. It'll start with hundreds of jobs, then thousands, and then tens of thousands. It'll be the biggest logistics center in the western states, and we'll tie that in with the Pinal Air Park. Good things are happening. As I said, this huge Fab 42 facility where Intel is investing billions in our state. Many good things are happening. We've opened up 2 state offices in California, one in Silicon Valley and one in LA, so companies that are trying to get away from oppressive state government, high taxes and onerous regulations can come to Arizona. And like Sargent Aerospace, which is in our district, they moved here several years ago. We need to foster that as much as we can. We want to make this the most business-friendly state in the nation, and we're well underway. Thanks.
So, do you follow?
The report that puts Arizona last July as number 4 in job creation also made it very clear that job creation in all of the states is still anemic. So I try to liken it to a barrel. You have water at the bottom of that barrel, a few inches of it. There's going to be something that floats to the top. That would be number 1, but it's still not very good.
I've heard my opponent mention this several times. In the last 4 years, there's one party and one fella in the White House who can wear that around his neck. The pathetic situation that we have in the United States. And then again, we're going to change this when the people of Arizona and the United States vote in a GOP landslide. America's recovery will start the evening of November the 6th. Thank you.
We're going to go to closing arguments. Just want to thank everybody again for the time spent today, and the candidates for coming out. Ms. Holt, we'll start with you with your 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Wow, I'm rich. We're not used to that. Yeah, that's true. That's true. You know, I want to thank everybody who's here today, whether you agree with me or not, because you're showing an interest in your country and you're showing an interest in your state, and we need a lot more of that. The reason why I decided to run for office really was because of the funding cuts to public schools. I look around at the public schools in Arizona. They needed help back in 2008, and what we did instead was slash them by 20% so far. And you know, a lot of people that I've talked to during the course of the campaign, they think that money is going to be put back into those schools when the economy gets better. Not with this legislature. It is not. Those are permanent cuts. Yeah, that's right. There's a shift of education from the public sector to the private sector. And this is all part of that shift. And you can use the recession as cover and say, well, I'm sorry, but we had to make these cuts. We really didn't want to. Let me just say something really quickly about the way the legislature is working, or may I say the way the legislature is not working, and the dysfunctional characteristics of the state legislature. When I've been door to door, when I've talked to the hundreds and hundreds of people that I've talked to over the course of this campaign, People are sick and tired of the political parties. They are sick and tired of Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, Green, whatever. They just want to have a representative that goes and tries their very level best to solve the problem. It's a pragmatic issue. And I am not beholden to my party. I would be beholden to the people of Legislative District 11. And I would very much appreciate your consideration and your vote. Thank you.
Senator Melvin, your 3 minutes for your closing.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone who's here today and for you all setting this up for us today. A couple of things. The fact is the two parties, the stark differences between them has been proven by the national conventions that were held earlier, the debates between the presidential candidates and most recently the vice presidential candidates. You can hold hands and sing Kumbaya and say, can't we just get along? But the fact is, the two parties are starkly different. And that's what we, as critical thinkers, have before us to make a decision on the most critical election of our lifetime. It's said that it's as important as 1860 when Lincoln was elected president and saved the country from self-destructing. A couple of things about education. I truly believe that maximum parental school choice with around an $8,000 scholarship per child, if every family had that at their means to send their child to the school of their choice, good American competition would kick in, and the bad schools would go away, and the good ones would multiply. This is a national security issue, in my view, and I'm saying that as a retired Navy captain after 30 years in the Naval Reserve. We have to fix it. We spend more money on K through 12 education than any country in the world, yet we rank 20th and below in all the key areas of math and science. This cannot continue. We cannot remain a major world leader when we don't educate our children properly. When you look at money per child, Washington, D.C. and others that spend twice what we spend have dismal performance rates. We've got some of the best school districts and schools in the nation, in the Phoenix area, Tucson area, through good school management. We need to have ample water, electricity, and transportation for our people. And our legislature is doing all that it can to continue, again, to make this the most business-friendly state in the nation by right-sizing government, by lowering taxes, and by getting rid of onerous regulations. The Arizona prosperity is taking off, and it will continue, and for the good of our people, for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, we're bound and determined to do it, and we're going to secure the border at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Oh, a subject. Yeah. A lot of heads here.
Yeah, that's nice.
Uh-huh. Well, education and...
Smile.
Oh. Oh.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Krista. Thank you.
Yes.